Tito's Tuesday.
Tito's Tuesday. Tito's Tuesday.
This
Woo!
podcast is sponsored by Tito's, America's number
Tito's.
one vodka, John. Tito's handmade vodka. What a product. Mac Jones just became the starter of the New England Patriots on Tuesday morning. The world was shocked, John, shocked when a $3 million quarterback who was unavailable got cut. Now, I tell you the name Cam Newton, it sounds a little different. I didn't quite understand everybody's shock over a $3 million quarterback getting cut when he got $3 million. Actually, $1.5 million was the initial guarantee. Was unavailable due to a misunderstanding, and then also got outplayed. Sounds like a recipe to get cut to me. And that last part, the part that he got outplayed, is probably the key to the whole thing.
Yeah, I think it's a, there's multiple variables here. On the most basic levels, we've been talking about this individual for a long time. You and I, the country, football fans, right? He was a very, very, after his season, he became, I'd argue, the most polarizing guy in the draft, without question. And for you and I, we talked about him nonstop because we thought the Niners might draft him. And there has to be some validation if you liked him. And I think it's fair to say the head coach in the 49ers building really liked this individual more than I think the majority of the league. And remember, me and you talked about when Sean McVay, I don't even think it was Kyle's podcast that he was on. It might have been another one, but Mac came up. Maybe it was Kyle's, and he definitely defended. Yeah, because Trey was already on the team. And Sean McVay defended Mac. I think Mac is liked in the crew. If you had to guess, does Kevin Stefanski like Mac Jones? I would guess he did a lot. Like, he fits that offense. But he didn't just win the job. Like, he's been good. He beat out a terrible player. To me, if he had beat out, like, if Mac had come to the Niners or Jimmy was on the Patriots and beat out Jimmy Garoppolo fair and square, like, that'd be pretty impressive. He beat out a guy we all made fun of couldn't throw. Like, that's just a fact. I mean, he was one of the worst players in the league last year. Now, he can run. And then, like you said, you got to factor in he became a pain for them because you couldn't rely on him because he didn't get the shot and he's testing positive all the time. And
had a misunderstanding on testing, John. It wasn't even.
Yeah. Then I also think, just big picture for the NFL, pretty big moment because the Patriots last year lost a little luster. And some of the luster just kept alive was just Cam and Bill kind of together, but they weren't good enough, even though they were still way better than they should have been. Now you get Mac Jones has been he was famous in the season, right? He was the starting quarterback for the national champion. I think he went to like a five-fold level once the draft process started. So they get this guy who's really famous that every NFL fan knows because we all fucking talked about the quarterbacks, but mainly him, Trey Lance, and Justin Fields for like 3 months. And now he's a starter, and Bill's got some juice and some life, and then he's opening up against Tua. Like, it is a fantastic NFL story.
It is.
There's no way around it.
Well, part of what I love about Mac and Trey and Fields and Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, is that it feels like we've been talking about these guys forever because we've been talking about them a lot. And Mac Jones becomes the starting quarterback, and you just said what you said, right, about how it's got to feel somewhat validating for Kyle. I tweeted a photo of Kyle, like, drinking a drink, like, sitting at the podium going, oh, did you guys see Mac Jones threw 3 touchdowns in the opener? Like, you're right. There's got to be this feeling of validation for him. But at the end of the day, he didn't draft the guy. He passed on him to draft Trey Lance. He didn't draft Justin Fields. He didn't draft Mac Jones. He drafted Trey Lance. So if Mac Jones turns into a star or a really good player or whatever, and Trey Lance doesn't, he doesn't get to say, yeah, see, I liked him too, because they made the decision to draft Trey. So I said that, and someone was like, oh, why are you being so negative about it? And I'm going to get to what I love about this, is that we have all laid out so many different opinions about who should have gone where, what the Niners would have done if it wasn't Trey Lance, what would the Jets have done if it wasn't Zach Wilson, would the Niners have taken Zach, should the Bears have traded up for Fields, should the Patriots have traded up for Fields. Not a single one of them's played their careers haven't even actually begun yet. Like, all of them were drafted in the first round, so they're at minimum 5 years on the teams they're on right now.
Broncos taking heat too. They passed on Fields, so they were a team that needs a quarterback.
Like the Darnold decision by the Panthers, right? We've kind of reached this conclusion, like, oh, maybe Kyle was right, and not a thing has happened yet. And I'm not saying that means any of this stuff is not true. What I'm saying is we're just about to we're only at the beginning of this whole story which has all of these guys intertwined. And we've seen it play out before. We've seen it play out with DeRozan, Allen, Baker, Lamar. Who else? What was the other guy in the draft class?
Baker, Darnold.
Darnold. Like we've watched it play out with that draft class too, and it's been part of the storyline over. I did hear somebody say the other day, "Is this the year Daniel Jones takes his Josh Allen step?" And I was like, "That's a great fake headline for the season."
Was that being sarcastic or serious?
It was being sarcastic.
Gotcha.
And
Rosen not dead.
Not dead
survived.
Not dead
he's
yet.
on a roster as
But
of Tuesday.
The other part of this is the conversation you and I had. One thing I hated in pre-draft was that a guy had a high floor, as if one guy was more guaranteed to be at least serviceable, right? But when we talked about Mac Jones, that was the way we talked about him. And more specifically, some people said he has the best chance to start right away. Now, obviously, Trevor Lawrence was going to start right away. Zach Wilson was going to start right away. But the people who said that about Mac were right.
I think the biggest difference when we talk high floors and high ceilings in the draft in general is you can miss on Solomon Thomas or Cleveland Farrell, right? And that's a top 10 pick, but even just a first-round pick. That guy still gets to play. So even if he nowhere nearly should have been drafted that high, hell, third-round pick, fucking Ahkello Weatherspoon, whatever, you can still use that player. When you miss on a quarterback for most teams, that guy never plays. Ever. Like, doesn't take a snap for you, right? If the Jordan Love thing never works out, and actually he looked decent, that's just a wasted pick, right? But like the following pick they did, A.J. Dillon, if that guy never becomes like a stud running back, he's still going to get to be a running back, right? Like Sony Michel for the Patriots is a good example. They use a first-round pick. If they had a redo on that one, you think they'd rather have his teammate Nick Chubb? Of course. But they still use Sony Michel to win a Super Bowl. He had big games, and then he kind of got passed or whatever, but he had value to them. When you miss on a quarterback, and we saw it with C.J. Beathard's a good example. Now, he was forced to play because their starter got injured, but he had no business getting drafted in the third round, and you would have been like, he's a high-floor guy. But then a guy like Gardner Minshew, for example, who I bet a lot of people viewed like that's insane even drafting him when the Jags did. Well, if you could flip it, no one argues that Gardner Minshew is just a better player than C.J. Beathard. Right? It's just so you just learn so much more as the draft goes, as years go on. But the difference is with quarterbacks, I think a miss or a whiff with a quarterback is way more crippling because they are just useless to you. And really, they immediately start losing you games when you have to play them. Like, just because I have to play Solomon Thomas and my team's good enough, he played a lot on a Super Bowl team, right? He just plays and is good against the run. Or if the Raiders are better this year, Cleveland Farrell will just play. He might not start, but he's just using them. When you whiff on a high pick, and it does feel like all these guys, including Mac, my whole take, and we're not just going to keep rehashing this with Mac, was just he was the most ready. Probably Trevor was just a way better, more ready player. But of the other guys, Zach Wilson included, just ready week one. And I would say more than likely only him and Trevor Lawrence, and there's a chance only Mac Jones could have just fully handled everything that New England just threw at him. He was just ready because he came from like the Harvard Business School of football, right? Just the football stuff that he was accustomed to, right? As a backup and then as a starter. And he had to learn slowly in Alabama because he didn't get to start right away. So he really was taking a lot of mental reps, and then he was just prepared.
Right. And
his game does translate to a lot of the things that New England had a lot of success with, right? Tom's not a dink and dunk quarterback, but as they got older, because of their personnel, they throw a lot to tight ends and running backs close to the line of scrimmage. Obviously, Tom, you see him with better guys. He clearly is much more capable to throw downfield. But like that's how they're kind of built right now. Yeah. Like Mac is not. They're not throwing go routes.
He also didn't join a team, unlike the Niners. His skill set does not like you can't. He's either on the field or he's not, right? Like if he were the starting quarterback who'd been there for 10 years and Cam Newton was the guy that gets drafted, that they just drafted, then maybe they actually use both guys somehow. Or maybe Cam just gets the job, right? I'm talking Niners, Trey Lance. Like you could easily make the case Trey Lance should just be the starter. But you can kind of ease him in. Hell, I guess the Bears could do it if they want to. I don't really see much reason to do that. Use the link in this video to sign up, get in the Haberman and Middlecoff DraftKings League. Get in our game this week for the FedEx Cup Championship and get ready to play an awesome football season with us on DraftKings. When you go to butcherbox.com/ham, you get 3 pounds of chicken breast, 2 pounds of burgers, 1 pound of hot dog for free right now. New members get the special deal when you sign up at butcherbox.com/ham.
They might have a couple plays for him, don't you think? Running like a quarterback sweep or something.
You wouldn't do that with
I
Mac
think it's
Jones,
possible.
Right? I mean, if Cam isn't unavailable for a point in time this year, you can still justify making Mac Jones the starter there. Again, if we just talk about how you acquired a player to tell us what you think of the player, the Niners traded everything basically to get Trey Lance, right? The Patriots had guaranteed $1.5 million to Cam Newton. He was a $3.5 million player by the end.
Is it inconceivable they bring Cam back as just a complete role player and just, starting week 2? I don't think that is. Just to not guarantee a salary, and then you kind of week to week, he get cut at any moment.
They've already paid him $3 million.
I don't think that's crazy. It'd be a little un-Bill-like, because one thing I read was just to...
But they've already paid him $3 million. You're saying there's going to be more bonuses involved?
Well, his contract, though, like he would have made more money if he was on the roster. Like he gets his regular season salary that he no longer gets.
To 5, but again, his minimum is going to be 1, and so you'll pay him 1 when you sign.
But his minimum is only week to week. Then you're just kind of playing it out.
Hurt. Otherwise,
well, just to use him as like a goal line running back, right? Just to use him how you would have used him if you kept him. You just name Mac the starter.
I mean, he might be available. I don't know.
Well, I think he probably will. Yeah, he will be. Now, part of it is I think when you use a personality that's big, even though it felt like he clearly meshed well with New England, him and Mac and Cheese got along. Part of it is just let your guy cook and let him be the guy, right? Become friends with everyone. Because that was the one thing I had always heard. And I know you had heard this and a lot of people had heard this. I mean, it became pretty public. It does get complicated when I think younger players and established veterans in the locker room, like Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz, it kind of can fragment a locker room. And Bill is, I would say he'd be the number 1 on the list. Like, you ain't fucking with his locker room like that. He doesn't do locker room lawyers. He doesn't do, a great example. And this is if Cam just got cut strictly because of vaccination status. I don't think that's inconceivable. The Bill's like, yeah, we would have used him fine. We were going to have him be like a role player, but I can't worry about this. Cole Popovich, their offensive line coach, who was a Fresno State guy when we were there, who became Bill's offensive line coach, refused to get vaccinated, and Bill said kick rocks. It's just that simple. And Bill is the least emotional about anything. And I would be shocked. I don't know, Coward Instagram something that he had heard that it was the vaccination thing. Because Cam does have value, and Bill is big on value. And I think he liked him. Like, I think he fit in well. Like, he wouldn't have brought him back if he didn't like him. I just think he got to the point where I cannot just, if I keep this guy, he misses randomly like 7 games because he just tests negative, even if he's not sick, whatever. It's not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, once you're my starting quarterback, I'm just investing a lot of time in you, and those are snaps in practice that we're not giving to Mac Jones.
But even if he's not the starter and doing the role stuff, it's like, well, you still might disappear, and then we waste practice time on it.
Yeah, I can't be surprised. It's one thing if you just get COVID. That just happens sometimes. But I can't be surprised if you miss a game because you didn't properly. It's not that he didn't. Whatever arrangement they had, he failed to execute it. Right? That's why he missed time. There was a miscommunication about what he was supposed to do. So you can't be surprised week 4 if that happens on Friday before a game. Because it just happened in the preseason.
Yeah, and it's going to happen this year with a lot of vaccinated players.
No.
I mean, they're getting it left and right.
No, I'm not talking about positive tests. I'm talking about Cam didn't – whatever agreement they had and whatever it was Cam had to do, I'll paraphrase. He, slept through the alarm. He didn't follow whatever protocol they had.
And they're pretty detailed.
That's different
operation.
than, getting a positive test, I think. That's on another level of just do what we agreed you're going to do.
You could argue that was the straw that broke the camel's back. The only thing that kind of took me back is Bill started him over the weekend. So once he did that, I was like, maybe we'll just ride it out.
So could we go the whole other way and argue Mac was going to be the starter and he cut Cam so Cam could find another team?
Yeah, who knows? I wouldn't put anything past the old man. I mean, the old curmudgeon.
Is he the Dolphins going to sign him?
I wish the Niners played the Patriots. I would love to see a little mac and cheese
I
versus
know.
Trey and Kyle and Bill.
At some point, you're gonna just have to start calling him some just by his name, and not mac and
Mac.
cheese. Yeah.
Well, I think mac and cheese is legit. I like mac and cheese.
I don't think it's a compliment. Is that a compliment?
Someone's like, I saw something on Twitter. It was like, how awesome would it be if he just kept 50?
50
That would be
players.
pretty sweet. No, I'm saying 50, the number 50. That's what Mac played in. 50.
I mean, if defensive guys can wear 2, why can't a quarterback wear 50?
I think because it's embarrassing.
You got to own.
you
own the joke, right? Like, yeah, I did grow up in a trailer with my mom, right? That's what Eminem did. You took everything they're saying about you and you own it. So how can they make fun of you if you choose 50? You start selling 50. You know, you just,
It would be big.
Some quarterback in the 30s probably wore 50.
1,000%. I like the Vince Lombardi Green Bay Packers.
Gold Blooded on YouTube says, us small margin Niner fans that thought Mac would be great caught so much heat. You could argue it was a huge reason they didn't take him. The fans, LOL. There is a question. Would Mac have beat out Jimmy Garoppolo?
I think, who knows?
Or Jimmy was just
it would have been possible.
Maybe Garoppolo was just gone.
But here's the thing. Like, you could have picked the right guy, and Mac could be better player than Jimmy Garoppolo. Right? Like, Mac is better than Jimmy.
You're saying, but Trey is better than Mac.
Well, Trey was the right pick. Trey is not better. If you had to win a game tomorrow against a good team, like if the Niners were playing the Dolphins and the Patriots were playing the Dolphins, you would rather have Mac Jones be your quarterback this week. Like week 1, Mac Jones is better than Trey Lance. Even I will not argue that. So these guys are going to be linked at the hip for a long time. Mac Jones is a better player. He is more equipped. He just is.
Today.
Trey Lance doesn't even have touch right now.